Always love that hot fangled new intro. It's the Dynamite Show. Paul Fontaine alongside the lovely Jeff Hawkins from
Lovely.
LA somewhere, I think.
I'm in Los Angeles, yes.
Yeah, sunny LA. We got a show for you. It's before we get into Dynamite though, we got to talk about the news of the week because a lot's changed in the last 7 days. As I'm sure you all know, on Saturday afternoon, we got the unfortunate news that, some people might think it's fortunate.
James McDaniel thinks it's pretty fortunate. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. One Phil Brooks is no longer employed by AEW. He was fired with cause by Tony Khan. They sent out a press release, and then Tony Khan essentially read the press release in the most monotone voice possible to kick off AEW Collision, which was, of course, in Chicago 1 day before the All Out pay-per-view, which was also in Chicago, which, of course, is CM Punk's hometown. And that was interesting. And amazingly enough, the fans didn't really seem to mind all that much. We didn't really get much anti-company stuff. We didn't get many CM Punk chants. Apparently, there were some in the building, but they were quickly shot down. And then AEW went and put on a pretty well-received pay-per-view on Sunday night. Collision, I thought, was great. I thought it was a really, really good go-home show. Sometimes in the face of turmoil, people kind of band together and do stuff. And again, I think a lot of reports were that the locker room is a lot more pleasant, and the people are getting along, and they're kind of a rally one for the troops. So what do you think, Jeff, when you heard this news? I was shocked. Like I didn't think, I thought he might. I didn't think he was gonna get fired. I just didn't. Like, I was surprised.
I thought he was going to get suspended.
Yeah.
I will agree with the general sentiment that it was courageous of Tony to announce this in public, up front, at Collision before the pay-per-view. It's a risk, especially when the pay-per-view is in Chicago, because you don't know, the makeup of that ticket buying audience necessarily.
Yeah.
And plus, it is a major move for the company. I also sort of agree with the sentiment that I was in fear for my life. Might have been a little bit melodramatic.
Yeah.
From this perspective, my man was a teenager going to Philadelphia in the ECW arena.
Chairs flying, flaming tables.
Yes, yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a safe environment when I went. That's the only time I felt like I was ever going to die at a wrestling show.
So hearing that, I mean, it must have been pretty bad.
Well, no, but I agree with Brian Alvarez as a man who has survived a violent attack as well. That's like, if you've never been attacked,
yeah,
you don't dismiss those types of things from either Tony or the Bucks necessarily. But overall, here's the thing that's gnawing at me a bit. If you wanted to keep Punk, you'd be keeping Punk. You brought him back to keep him. The meeting thing sticks in my craw, and I get, okay, they may not want to have the meeting, but you go into one of these rooms with a giant table, a boardroom, you bring whatever lawyers or people or whoever will make you feel comfortable. And if you are the boss, you say all of these people around this table right now have both a talent contract and an employment contract.
Yeah, which actually we found out that CM Punk did have an employment contract.
Yes, which means you are the CEO of this company and these people all work for you. And if you really want to keep Punk because you brought him back after already mouthing off and kind of embarrassing your company and yourself once, you go into this big room with chairs and there's security in the building if you need it, et cetera, et cetera. And you lay down the law for all these people that are working for you. And I get that people may not want to be there. And I get that people may be afraid and all these other things. But if you want it to work, you say this is going to work, or you don't have the employment contract anymore. You have the talent contract, and I will keep you all away from each other. And I get that. Oh, that might split the locker room. I get all that. But the point was, I'm coming from the perspective of Punk already probably shouldn't have been brought back. If those are the concerns.
Yeah, exactly. Like if he was going to get fired for this, he should have been fired for a year ago.
Yes.
Yeah. The difference being that Tony didn't witness it firsthand. The difference being that he didn't threaten the owner of the company, allegedly. One key thing that I hadn't even really thought about, but you hear this argument that, oh, back in the day, if Bruiser Brody and Dick Murdoch, got into it with each other, they would just have a fight backstage and everything. Well, first off, Bruiser Brody got stabbed to death, so that's one thing. But the difference is these guys are employees; they're not independent contractors like the guys in the past were.
There are HR considerations and other things here.
And the other thing is again, like, if this is true that Tony wanted to have a meeting with these guys, he wanted to work it all out. And he told the Bucks, hey, I'd like to have a meeting with you and Punk, and we'll do it here. And this is the time. And Bucks are like, no. You know what? Maybe the Bucks should have been suspended for that, because they're EVPs, they're employees, and they're basically saying, I won't work with this guy.
Yes. I'm that's where I am at. I'm at the all right. Look.
and again, suspended from their EVP duties. You can still have them wrestle.
They can still be talented.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they're mad about that, let them be mad about it for a while and cool down. But it's like, look, this is my company. This is my sandbox. This is my money. This is mine.
And
this
you guys,
yours.
And you guys need to work together. Or again, you make the decision that you made, and you know what? I just signed the Bucks to 4-year contracts. They're more valuable to me than CM Punk. This ain't gonna work. I got to pick a side. I could lose four guys.
You're gonna pick you're gonna pick the one. You're gonna pick 1 over 4 every day of the week. But it's also
you might lose Ace Steel too. But
jeez, that threw me off for a second. It's like, okay,
FTR.
Well,
I think they'll.
If you're gonna lose FTR, you're gonna lose FTR. But it's like, my point isn't, hey, we're gonna keep you all separate. You don't have to work with them necessarily. You don't have to be. We're gonna have your brand split and everything like that. I just need all this to stop.
Yeah,
and I need everybody to be on that page, and we'll all go take on the WWE together, type of a thing. I understand all these considerations. I understand everything about that. It's just, to me, there's a little bit too much go along to get along from Tony here.
Mm-hmm.
And if the point is I need Punk back in the fold, you got to work for that, because you're going to get the pushback. And I think, to me, Tony didn't want the pushback. I don't know what happened on the day backstage on Saturday or Sunday or whatever day that was.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard 6 different versions.
Yes. And I'm fairly certain Punk was out of line. I think he should have just swallowed the comment. I've given my comment that Jack Perry should have never worked into. I've already gone through that. I understand the thing about the assault stuff. Alvarez has a great take on it as well. I've been beaten till I got into the hospital. I get that. I get that if you feel unsafe working there, you don't work together. But in the meeting room, you can make accommodations and say, okay, look, this is how it's going to go down. What would it take for you to come into the room and feel safe with this person in this giant room with a big table? Not in a locker room,
right?
Not in a stadium,
not wrestling together,
together, not anywhere where there's no security, or security is out by the entrance or something like that. In a professional setting, you bring in Mega, you bring in any other attorneys you need.
Yeah.
You bring in
or you don't. You make that decision that, you know what, these parties cannot work together. I need to make a choice.
Yes.
And I guess he made a choice.
If that's what he did, that's what he did, and I'm fine with that. But I still think he needed to pressure a little bit more on the meeting part. And I'm not saying it would have worked. I'm not at all.
Probably wouldn't have, given history. But you got to at least try. Or you don't tell the guy he's going to have a meeting, and then tell him he's not. Because I mean, between that and then the spot getting approved that he had already said no to, and then the guy,
that spot should have never been approved.
Yeah, and then the guy getting in his face.
Because
Yeah.
I think almost everybody could see what was coming from that. That was a spot that, we're gonna do the spot that Punk didn't want to do before.
Now back up, Punk also shouldn't have gone to the media and told them, I gave.
Yes, no, I agree.
Yeah,
look, and leaking stuff, which
that's got to stop.
Well, on Punk's side, it's gonna stop because he ain't working there no more.
Well, he's got friends there.
Although he might.
Yeah.
There's rumors that things may be released by him, and I think lawyers are going to be involved and stuff like that. But
and he's got very close friends that still work there.
Let's get to the other part of your question here. How did I feel?
Oh yeah.
Especially while you and young Mr. McDaniel and young Mr. Ely were all I'm so happy right now.
Sunday after the show,
I fell into one of the darkest depressions I've ever been in about this dumb business, and just in general. Yes, because let me make my case here.
Okay.
In the past 2 years, Cody Rhodes is gone. Cody Rhodes knew how to do simple Southern style wrestling storytelling and builds of angles. Jay Briscoe, the best promo guy in the business that I enjoyed watching, who could do money promos, is gone. And he ain't ever coming back, unfortunately.
And now Punk.
There's something else I couldn't think of at the time that I was just like, okay, I can't. Tully Blanchard. My favorite wrestler. A guy who can bring that kind of heat with those types of promos. Gone from this company. Not used appropriately, according to Dax, because MJF didn't want to give him time.
Yeah, well, MJF didn't need a manager.
It doesn't matter. They had planned for the manager.
They've got Callis.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
And now Punk, who could do a program where he talks you into the building.
Yeah, they've still got a few people that are like that, but
they have some, but they're not at the level. Joe is great, but Joe's never going to be the guy carrying the title in this company.
And the other thing is Joe sometimes leans into stuff that other people are doing, which he did tonight.
Yeah. So what I'm left with now is a whimsical Wes Anderson type wrestling federation with Iron and John Silver found a talking potato on Being the Elite. So it's going to be, he's going to make references to that or something like, that kind of crap. And it's going to be ironic, whimsical, inside joke wrestling. And I'm just like, I was happy
that we got a good show on
Sunday. No, the show was great. Oh,
okay.
That has me set off too, because everybody's learning the wrong lessons from this show. Because yes, the pay-per-view was great, especially the second half. Second half had like 4 or 5 matches in a row. That strap match.
Yeah.
Boy, if that had some talking promos for 3 weeks leading up to this would be possibly one of my favorite matches of all time.
I think the promo we got tonight was maybe enjoyed a little less, but we'll get to it.
Well, Matthew, I'm a member of Voices of Wrestling, so I get it. Yes, and then Tony comes out with a statement in the scrum, I believe, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to stop listening to all these criticisms about the build because we did a great show, and Silver and Anthony Bowens are going, oh, look, we prove you guys wrong, blah, 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 blah.
Did you see Silver on Twitter on Sunday night? Oh, my God.
Yes, I did. And I'm just like, hold on, guys. We never said you guys weren't good wrestlers. We never said you weren't going to go out in the ring and kill it in the ring.
Doing his MJF, telling somebody that, oh, you didn't convince me to buy the show, and, oh, well, get a better job and make more money, you loser.
Like, yeah, okay, this show did over 100,000 buys as opposed to the show last week.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because we didn't build it
two in a row.
Well, and you did two in a row. But the fact is, look, nobody's ever doubted that the in-ring product is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the problem is what they're learning from this is, well, the in-ring's fantastic. Now we got another 2 hours of show because they're going to throw out every single change Punk ever made for that show.
Yeah.
And just do it our way.
Probably.
Here's your gruel. Yeah. It's Golden Corral now. We're getting, we're getting the buffet of mediocre. I mean, and as you said before we went on to the air, it feels like there's only 20 guys working in this company at
This
times
week, because
it's like, okay, we're getting repeat performances all throughout the weekend because we gotta fill this show. I mean, these shows don't have separate identities anymore. If you take away the Punk notes that he was doing, and it's obvious it was his baby, and they may just do that just to spite him.
And Rampage, I mean, honestly, like on paper, looks like a better show than Dynamite.
Rampage looks fantastic, but
it's Friday night.
I watch all the wrestling. I can't watch all the wrestling, and it's something has to get cut. And occasionally, it's usually because I'm doing another podcast. I go, Rampage is an hour. I'm not going to seek that out. That's an hour that I can have back.
Or I'll catch it when I catch it. But the thing is, if you're using Rampage to build Collision, and then you decide you're going to skip Rampage, well, then what? Are you going to skip Collision too? Because you skipped Rampage?
Yeah, but I was the guy. I'm listening to your podcast. You guys are loving everything. I'm just like, and I'm like, God, do I need to quit podcasting because I don't want to be the crying girl at the party because I'm not going to like the style that they bring.
I think we need your voice, Jeff.
And they're just going to bring more of this.
Yeah.
Just to rub it in. We're going to get more of, goofy segments and things of that nature. And you're just, I mean, even let it a little bit with the MJF Adam Cole getting beat down. And it's like, oh, my arm. Just like, the melodrama was real.
He was crying tonight. He had real tears
and Adam Cole acting like he's never done a beatdown before and never seen the aftermath of such a thing. I need a doctor.
He said shit 3 times, so he was really hurt.
Yes. Yeah. But the pay-per-view was fun.
Yeah, it was, and I get what you're saying, and it's like I've said this before, and our friend Damien said this in the Discord, and I couldn't agree more. I think it was him. That this is like the person who doesn't study for the exam, and then he gets like an 85 anyways.
Yes.
And then he's like, well, see, I told you I didn't need to study. Meanwhile, if he would have studied, he might have got 100.
I made that same comparison. What is Damien doing stealing my bits?
Well, I compared it to myself because that was me in high school. And then when I got into real life, I was like, oh, crap, I'm fucked.
And the ironic thing is this is what Vince does too. Vince rips up a script on the day of the script and goes, you know what it is? It's the pressure. The pressure will make me work better here. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, look at that.
But they don't get off either because they had a pretty crappy built show too on the weekend.
Yes.
And they didn't deliver like AEW did.
Oh, I don't know. They had a couple of really good matches on there.
You know what? If you think that we paid 50 for one and maybe like 5 for the other, it's probably about right.
Yeah, no, look, Trish Stratus had the match of her life.
Trish and Becky was great. The tag title
and
match
the tag team and the tag title match was
the rest was boring as hell.
Yeah, it was bland.
All right, let's get into the show.
Okay.
Because I'm excited.
Are you?
Oh yeah. So the show opens with a confusing segment to me, anyways. Maybe someone can make sense of it. If you're in the chat, hey, reminder that you can do super chat, and we'll definitely 100% highlight your comment. But it starts off with Orange Cassidy, and I'm like, oh wow, he lost the title at the pay-per-view. He's gonna wrestle again, and no, he just comes out in his clothes, and he says they told me to stay home, but I said nah, and he said whether I have a championship or not, I'm gonna be out here each and every week because I'm freshly squeezed and I do not have, and the fans are chanting a catchphrase along with him, and then he just leaves. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, he was told to stay home. He says no. So they're like, oh, well, you know what? We got like 3 minutes at the start of the show. Do you want to just go out there and say nothing? Whatever. So he does.
Yeah.
And then he watches while Moxley makes his entrance, and then AR Fox brings out Darby Allin for, and they're gonna have their match, and we'll talk about that in a second. And Darby or Orange Cassidy just kind of watches, and then he stands there with Orange Cassidy with Darby because they have a history. And I just, this was so weird. Did I miss something?
No.
Okay.
I think this is basically, Orange Cassidy has opened so many of our shows the past few weeks. We're going to do it again. We're going to say, hey, we're not deep pushing him. He's still going to be a star. Yeah. He's still going to be here every week.
I mean, we got to hear Jane. We got to see Orange. I mean, and it was short.
I wanted him to call out MJF. I know we're doing for Grand Slam.
You can't have nice things. But
But it's like, screw it. We got the title off him. All right, let's push him for the big.
We got those 8 like superstars in this tournament that they're focused on MJF. So Orange Cassidy's got to get to the back of the line.
Yeah.
So we get this match.
It was confusing. There was a lot of that. WWE has done this a few times. I believe this is a Gabe Sapolsky thing where it's like guys leaving one match and the other one blends into the other thing. There was a lot of that.
Well, this was kind of what they did with MJF and Joe too, but
yes.
They also played off of an angle from NXT. Well, not an angle, but something that happened on NXT 10 years ago or however.
A lot of talking about the other guys tonight too.
There was that. So we get this match, and I believe it was for the title.
Yes.
Jon Moxley defending the international title that he just won against AR Fox. And I will say, I hadn't even thought of this until he came out with AR Fox. But do you remember when they originally did this, when Orange Cassidy had the title and he wrestled AR Fox? And they did a whole bit about it. And Orange Cassidy went to Tony Khan and he vouched for him. And even though he had never won a match, he's getting a title shot. And AR Fox responded to him by churning on him, and
and wouldn't shake his hand, and
wouldn't shake his hand, attacked his best friend in his home, which they reminded us of as well. So all this stuff, and then here AR Fox just gets another title shot.
Makes no sense whatsoever.
No, I mean, and it's not an open challenge because we had an open challenge later. It was just a random title match.
It was who can we beat this week?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. AR Fox, and he can do a few aerial things and get the crowd going. And
And if you recall, the last time they did this.
And it's also to help that whole Nick.
People didn't really know AR Fox back then as much, but they got into the match. They got into his, he did a lot of great moves and everything. And Orange is such a great seller. So they had a really great match, whatever it was a month ago. Here, nobody bought the AR Fox was going to win. Nobody likes AR Fox, but nobody
trusts him yet.
Right. Yeah. They don't hate him either because Darby says he's okay. So there was like nothing in this match. And he got, Mox gave him a few moves, but it was basically an extended squash, went through a commercial break. Mox gave him the elbows of death, and then he got the win with the Death Rider. And Sam says maybe like for real life, he's got heat. If that's the case, you know what? That's not
I'm sure he does, but to me, this felt like I have a segment.
Yeah.
I need to get Christian to be able to get Nick Wayne alone. How do I get there?
That's the other thing. Yeah, because they did show Nick Wayne watching backstage. And then Christian.
Your father was far worse than I thought.
Yeah, they did a thing afterwards. Yeah.
I thought AR Fox also looked a little slow tonight, to be honest with you.
Little bit.
It looked like he might be in pain or have some injury or something.
He did maybe 2 moves that were his usual spectacular, where usually he does 10.
Yeah.
So, and then Mox didn't do much either. This was just a match.
Mm-hmm.
So then Darby, Mox just leaves. He disappears into the ether. I think I saw the BCC there, but they were gone too.
Claudio was there.
Yeah. So Darby goes into the ring and he congratulates AR Fox on a great effort. And he's trying to get the fans to cheer, but they're not really into him. And then we get Nick on the big screen, and he looks kind of pissed off that that Darby's out there with AR Fox. And then they show Christian shows up, and Darby just bolts, he's got to leave AR Fox there. And then Christian says, "Oh, when I heard last week that your dad used to be a wrestler," which I thought was funny because I think it was a month ago when he mentioned this again. But he says, and so I decided to check out his matches, and I got to apologize to you. I said, that dude's even worse than I thought. And he says, you really need a mentor, and it can't be Darby. It needs to be a true champion. And he pats the belt that he's holding. and he says, so you know what? Think about it, kid. And oh, by the way, say hi to your mom. And just a great, creepy little bastard.
Why are Darby and Nick watching this match together?
Because
when they have a match later tonight.
Because of AR Fox, I don't know.
Nick hates AR Fox.
Yeah, I don't know.
About what? Man, I'm gonna watch this match with you, Darby. Your new friend.
That didn't even cross my mind, but yeah, I don't know.
I'd be staring a hole into Darby Allin.
He should be watching Darby Allin tapes.
Yes.
Yeah. Why are they even together? Yeah, they should be
exactly.
Preparing. Yeah. Well, maybe they were going over their match.
It's all fake. Let's go over the
Yeah.
choreography.
Oh my God. I gotta tell you something later.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So that, I mean, I like the ending part. So that kind of almost made everything worthwhile. But the match itself was, it was fine. One thing I will say, when I've said all along, Orange Cassidy should never lose this belt, right? It was like my catchphrase. But I will say that when Orange Cassidy had the belt, these matches felt bigger because he was so vulnerable that you always thought he could lose. Whereas when Mox has a belt, there's like maybe going to be one time where we think that he might lose, but every other person they put him in the ring with is going to be foregone conclusion that he's winning. So that, in that sense, I don't think we need to see him every week on TV defending the belt, but I think that's what we're going to get. But we'll see. So
I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, I want to give this guy their best bloody match.
Yeah, so it's almost like a violent version of John Cena's US Open title thing.
Yeah.
Or the Cody thing that he did.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some indie guys coming in for this. That'd be cool. TBS title open challenge.
The main event of this show.
Chris Statlander and Emi Sakura, our favorite. This was fine. They didn't really get much crowd reaction at first, but they kind of got the crowd by the end, which is usually a sign of a good match. It wasn't long, but they made the most of their minutes. There was one spot where they both like collapsed and they were teasing a double count out. And that's where the fans were getting really into it. Sakura got a backbreaker for a great 2 fall, but then shortly after that, Statlander hit the Wednesday Night Fever because it's Dynamite. If she's wrestling on Collision, it's a Saturday Night Fever, and if it's on pay-per-view, it's Sunday Night Fever.
Right.
But this was Sam loved this. This was great.
Well, you just
it was not long enough, but it was.
You said it was fine, and now you went to great because you're afraid of Sam. Okay,
yes, that's true. They made the most of their minutes.
I loved the beginning 2/3 of this match a lot, and I wanted them to keep that tone because Emi comes out, throws her gear, and you see Chris go, "Uh-oh, she's mad," or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just and look, we're doing the standard Emi stuff in terms of, the cross bodies and the power bombs and stuff like that. I wanted her to continue to be more and more focused about that, as opposed to kind of then getting into a little bit more of the showmanship Emi, which I like, but it's better for squash matches than for main event. I want her to be focused Emi, but it looked like they wanted to do like at least 2/3 of a Haas match, which I was very much enjoying. The chops were fantastic.
If they would have given them 12 minutes, this would have.
If this had given them 12 minutes, there would have been a standing ovation at the end of this. The end of this match, I think, and especially if they had let Emi do a moonsault.
You know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of Joe versus Taylor from the pay-per-view. It not so much like the style, but just the way that the match went, and that they just went all out for the time they had.
I think they wanted to do almost a Hobbs Miro type of thing in terms of the fighting and stuff. But
possible, yeah.
The one thing, have you been seeing Emi's Twitter and then Saraya responding to Emi's Twitter?
No, I've seen
about
some
the We Will Rock You stuff. Okay.
Oh no.
I think they might be setting something up there, which would be
I'd love
nice.
to see that. I'd love to
but
see
no, Emi Sakura is I'd say she's the most underappreciated woman on this roster, but Athena's over there just doing ROH stuff as opposed to.
Well, and not only that, but I think a lot of people appreciate her.
Yeah.
It's just
I wanted this to be, I wanted this more because Emi got a nice reaction, especially when she came out, but also when she was doing that first run of offense. And I was like, stay on that as opposed to doing, the Queen stuff and the setup for the dramatic stuff. And I think if she had continued that, then this crowd would have really, really been into it, like almost tease that she's going to win this thing.
And then they get more into Chris when she come back. Yeah.
Exactly. But I liked it for what it was. I just wanted more time on it, to be honest with you.
All right. We got a taped interview with Roderick Strong. This is great. He's leaning into this like just geek simp character. He's got glasses and he's surrounded by the kingdom. He's got his neck brace and they're playing dramatic music in the background. Told the same story they told in NXT a few years ago, which I'm sure is true. He said his parents didn't know how to be parents. His mom had drug issues. Dad was an alcoholic. Didn't his dad like murder someone or something and end up in jail or something? Or
possibly
his mom killed his dad or something? Like they didn't tell that story, but I'm sure I seem to remember that. Someone will remind us in the chat, I'm sure, if they remember it. But he had a really, really rough life, and wrestling got him out of it. He said he had to take care of himself with a BB gun by his side, which was weird. And he said wrestling gave him an opportunity. Pro wrestling is everything for me. And he says, I'm going to win the Grand Slam tournament all by myself, as the kingdom is beside him. I love this. It's so goofy, but it's serious too. Like, I don't know.
I didn't understand it, to be honest with you. I was like, I'm watching this and going, what is the point of this? And I didn't know what the point was, but you kind of, it's the disingenuous baby face story that
which I think is why they didn't tell the full story, because they didn't really want you to have sympathy for him. Because I think like the pictures they showed, it didn't actually line up with what he was saying. Like,
it's almost like they need to do more of a false story.
Yeah, because he's talking about how bad his life was, and you see him playing video games, and he's like, kicking around a football and whatever.
It was almost like an MJF fake type of.
Except he really does have that story. So if he was a baby face and doing this, like, maybe they would have leaned into the reality of it. But I don't know. I just kind of like, I get a kick out of and the
you like the Sears portrait studio look that the three of them had. Okay.
Yeah. So they bring out Don Callis for commentary, and I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. And then it was the Sex Gods. So this match was great, and it also pissed me off. So do you want to know why?
Because Aussie Open has now lost 2 different matches in 2 different geeky ways.
I think it's actually 3, but and a couple Geek Battle Royals as well.
Yeah, are we looking at Aussie Open as stars, or are we just looking at them as names that people like?
Well, okay, right, and then but yet the commentators are telling us how awesome they are.
Yes, they're one of the best tag teams in the world. They got beat by a double clothesline. I mean,
4 months ago they had the IWGP titles and the Impact titles and the Strong titles, I think. And now they're on Dynamite, jobbing to everybody.
Yes.
And if this was in WWE and a team was doing that, we'd not hear the end of it. Oh, how badly they're getting screwed up and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we need to give, we need to
They are literally FTR in WWE.
Yeah. But here's my problem here. These are, and they told us in commentary, great tag team. They've won all these titles. They just lost the ROH tag team titles. This should be their rebound match, but this isn't their story. So we had this match, and it was great. Everyone had all kinds of great moves, and the Sex Gods were really over, and they got a couple babyface comebacks. They had 2 key spots in the match where they had miscommunication between Jericho and Guevara. One spot where Jericho did a dive to the outside, and he landed only on Guevara, completely knocked him out. Then there was another spot right near the end of the match where Jericho bonked into Sammy and knocked him off. On both of those occasions, a great tag team like Aussie Open should be able to take advantage of that and beat them.
Yes.
And it doesn't hurt the Sex Gods because they're breaking up anyways, it seems like. They had an argument after the match. I'm not exactly sure why, because they won. I'm not sure why Sammy was so upset. And then they left. And this would have been such a better story if Aussie Open had won.
Yes.
And there's no reason they couldn't have won. Unless the story that we're going to get is that the Sex Gods are going to work through their problems and go on a tag team run, which is exactly what we just had with MJF and Adam Cole, and it's still going on. I don't think that's where it's going. I think we're leading to a Sammy and Jericho feud. In which case, all the more reason they didn't need to beat Aussie Open.
You're missing the obvious question here.
What's that?
Are we doing the mirror universe version of MJF and Adam Cole because Chris Jericho wants to do that with Sammy? Maybe. In terms of we're going to go on a mini tag team run and eventually fail and then turn on each other type of a thing.
So then they're actually going to win some titles down the road?
No.
Oh, okay.
They're not. They're going to fail ultimately.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Because Jericho loves this story so much because it's him and KO.
Put the Dark Order in there or something.
No, I get, like, look, 10-10, no notes for your analysis here. It makes no sense.
Iron Savages.
Aussie Open should have won this. And then it's like, well, maybe we can do another tag team match and get it together again. And you go for somebody lower down. Yes, like the Dark Order.
And you know what's even more frustrating is I'll bet you anything, like at some point in the next 3 months, Tony Khan's going to put the belt on these guys.
No.
Aussie Open.
Aussie Open? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I thought you meant Jericho.
No. Aussie Open, because they're great.
Oh yeah, no, they'll probably have them beat FTR.
Yeah.
And FTR like mouths off about Punk or something.
Yeah, and then they're champions, and then they'll remind us that Jericho and Sammy beat them. John has a good point here, but I mean, the problem with this, John, like he says, if it's being positive, it showcases Aussie Open to start doing their own stories and stop being set pieces. The problem is they were set pieces here.
Yes, and there's no proof that they do that type of thing when it's like that's hopium. That's people looking at this and go, "Oh, look how great they were in New Japan." Let's get
now. If this turns into like, if they start like, you know what, we need to figure something out here because we shouldn't have lost to these guys, and maybe we see them and now they're on a mission and they just start mowing through people. That'd be awesome.
If that painting was Aussie Open holding the heads of Jericho and Sammy, then it would lead to something. But I think it's Sammy holding Jericho's head.
That's possible, yeah. Because why was Callis out there on commentary?
Yeah,
this story is about Callis.
Yes,
yeah. Although I mean, he is loosely affiliated with that group, with Osprey and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, the match itself was great. It was a really, they got a "This is awesome" chant. They got it was just, they went through a commercial.
Sammy was really good in this match.
Yeah, and Jericho too, and he was having a great time. Callis said that he pointed out that he beat Kenny Omega twice in 7 days. I guess as
he's doing the Christian gimmick.
Yeah. He also mentioned that Omega is 0-8 since he left Don Callis. That might be right.
I think it is right.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's kind of a good story.
Did he win his Triple Mania match?
No, he lost to Vikingo. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So
and I think you're correct.
Yeah, so I mean, that's actually a really good story that they're telling there. That Omega needs Callis, but he can't have him and he doesn't want him. Can
I tell you the happiest thing other than that strap match at the pay-per-view was the fact that Takeshita beat Omega clean.
Yes,
that made me so happy because I wanted that. I'm like, he needs that to be the big villain here. Yeah.
Yeah, and also that he tried to cheat and it didn't work, and then he beat him clean.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. I think we talked about that on Sunday.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, after the match, Sammy's not happy with him. They start arguing very slightly. Security is like right out there. Like, I'm like, what? Like, we see guys arguing all the time.
The ref called for security.
Why?
He feared for his life.
Were they even getting
his 30 years of refereeing all around the world? He had never been in a life-threatening situation such as that.
They were just having a disagreement. I don't think they were going to get physical. I mean,
it's for the drama.
Yeah.
But I'm still mad that this is happening because we just rehabbed Jericho into a babyface, and we spent all that time trying to get Sammy to this point to being a babyface.
Okay, we got a super chat here from Mo, and I think he's feeling kind of like what you are feeling lately.
Yes.
Mo says, "Hello lads, not to distract, but I'm done with AEW. I can't deal with this silly BS anymore. Forget the Bucks, Lawrence, Olivia, etc. Big CM Punk fan. Anyway, have a great rest of your evening."
Yeah.
Well, I hope you listen to the rest of our show later.
Yeah, Mo. It's gonna be a little bit of hunting and pecking for me. Because I went over why my whole style and what I like and the Southern style type thing, but also I'm also someone who, as I said, Wes Anderson wrestling. I don't want that. I don't want like whimsical stuff all the time. But I understand. Look, AEW has gone through phases here, and it's one of those things where they're going to eventually figure out that they're going to need that kind of Southern style storytelling.
There was a show not that long ago. I don't know if you remember which one, and you can tell me. But there was one where if I didn't have this podcast, I would have shut the show off. And I'm not sure when or if I would have started watching AEW again.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you I would not have bought that pay-per-view on Sunday. Although I will say after watching Collision, but then again, I might not have watched Collision
I came close to not buying that payper-view Sunday.
Yeah. But I will say Collision convinced me to buy it because Danielson.
That was such a great angle. That's, and as soon as he said Dragon on the contract, I go, I got to put Danielson in this?
Yeah, and then when his thing,
Unless
I
it
was
was
like,
Super
"Holy crap."
Dragon, and then that would have been cool too. But
And you
yeah.
want to know something? I didn't watch that show till Sunday morning. Nobody spoiled it for me. I was amazed. Like I was still surprised when Danielson came out. I love being surprised. I really do as a wrestling fan. And
That was a really well done
yeah.
angle, and yeah.
All right. So Mo, I'm sorry to hear that, but I hope you'll still listen to us because we'll tell you the way it is. All right. We got a video package for Starks and Danielson.
Yes.
And Starks was talking during this, and he said he proved a point to Danielson and to AEW. He didn't tap out. I thought that was great. He said, I'm pissed off and I'm angry. And then he went into stuff that I didn't like. He's like, when is it going to be time for someone like me? Don't give me a piece of bread and tell me I'm fed. I want a full course meal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm absolute Ricky Starks, and I'm going to say that till I die. And then they told us Saturday we'll hear from Danielson. But what the hell was this at the end?
I will try and be an interpreter here.
Okay. Because I think there was like backstage stuff in here.
Yes.
Okay.
There is. And he is still very angry that he was going to be put in a main event program with Punk, and he did not get the quote unquote main event program. Still got a good match.
I mean, he may not have been the main event, but it's the only match everyone was talking about.
I get this, but this was also forget about my loss. I want to be pushed now, type of a thing. And he's done this
you
type
lost
of promo before. I get that, and that's what's missing here is that what he needed to do was do a call out.
Yeah,
he needed because this is a thing in wrestling that I don't care for a lot, and a lot of people say it's good. And they're missing the point. They'll do this promo and it's impassioned, but there's no real direction to it. It's more about their career type of a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is your personal reaction to losing to Bryan Danielson? And why aren't you saying, Danielson, I'm going to kick your ass?
Yeah.
Or it's like, if that's the last I get to do with Danielson, I got to find somebody else. So I'm looking at this guy. I don't like him. There's no personal connection to any one-on-one feud here. So it just becomes one of these things where it's like, I'm cutting a theoretical promo about the character of Ricky Starks, and it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't resonate for anything because it doesn't make you want to see Ricky Starks again, because he's just going to be talking about how he's been mistreated by the company and hasn't been pushed properly. And you kind of nailed it here. It's kind of a backstage political promo, to be honest with you, in some ways.
What is the match that
I like the promo overall, which is very weird, but it's like I came out of it watching and going, that's going to do nothing for him.
When you ask people what's your favorite WrestleMania match of all time, or what's the best WrestleMania match of all time, other than like some people say Savage Steamboat, what is one that gets mentioned like a lot that I will say was similar to Danielson and Starks? Bret Hart and Stone Cold.
I was going to say Austin Hart, but there was no strap involved, so I wasn't.
There wasn't no strap, but Bret Hart submitted Austin. He passed out from blood loss. Do you remember on Monday Night Raw the next night when Stone Cold came out and was complaining about his push? and
it was also such a weird. I mean, I liked
the happen is my point.
I liked the ending a lot of that match. I liked that he didn't tap. And like his facials on getting choked to death, kind of a thing.
He was pissed off at himself for losing, and he wanted revenge.
Yes,
but that was it. Like he wasn't mad at the company.
Starks should hate everybody and everyone, and should be going, now I got a list, and now I'm going through it.
And he should be mad at himself.
Yes.
Like he's like, I tapped out. Like I didn't quit.
You know what this was? This was the heel version of a Steal the Show promo.
Kinda, yeah.
Like, look at that match. I give me a piece of bread and want to be fed. Look at what I did out there.
Or he could even be mad at the referee for stopping it.
Yes.
Like that's one thing.
Yes, okay with that. You know what? And that's another point. It doesn't exist in the world of professional wrestling. in terms of the fake world that we see on the TV and stuff like that. It exists in the business of professional wrestling instead. And that's the problem here is the lack of personal connection is doing that, because it's like, even after big shows where guys lost, you know, that next week of TV tapings, and I'm talking 80s territory wrestling, because that's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
They'll come out and they go, here's the next guy I want to face. Look, yeah, I lost till he comes out and goes, I never said I quit. I never said I quit. And then turned to, I think, Jimmy Valiant, I'm going to kick your ass or something like that. So it was fine.
Or it'd be Danielson, like, as far as I'm concerned, you didn't beat me, or something like that. And then maybe, we build to another match.
And I think a lot of this is they don't know what to do with Danielson in some ways, because he's a baby face in a heel stable, and he's going to remain in there.
Yeah. And we're going to hear from Danielson on Saturday. So we'll probably get more. They recap the MJF and Joe angle from Sunday. And that was going to set up MJF. But first, we got a quick little segment backstage. Renee with Don Callis and Takeshita. He had an easel that was covered, kind of like in the Jericho thing a few weeks ago. Compared himself to a serial killer, which I thought was...
That might be the creepiest line I've ever heard on a professional wrestling show.
Yeah, I'm
like a serial killer. I like to go back to the scene of the crime and watch.
Yeah. He said, we made history by beating Kenny Omega twice in 7 days. And he said, this easel has my next target, which I'll reveal next week. And Renee went to lift it. No, next week. So I like that.
Although I admire the fact that he has paintings commissioned.
Yes.
So there's a lot of care and concern in this, and things will never change. It's just Jericho's going to say, yes, what? Wait, I got a painting.
You know, at one point is going to happen here. I think it has to happen. He's going to pull that thing, and it's going to be him.
Yeah.
Yes. And Kenny was going to replace
I'm
the
here
painting.
for this.
Yes.
Paul. This is the abject stupidity part of it that I love.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be dogs playing poker.
Well, that's diabolical.
It's going to be like 5 Larrys playing poker.
God. Or it'll be Kenny drinking Pepsi. All right. We got MJF Speaks. This segment.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get this out of the way first. I don't like babyface MJF.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because it's a little too... I thought he was very clever as a heel, even though like a lot of people think it's like a lot of the stuff was derivative and everything like that. But I think here he's just like, he goes to the same well over and over again, but not just... I'm not just talking similar. Like he uses the same lines, and he's repeating himself, and the crowd loves it. So, that's great, but
if I may, it's a little mix of The Rock and using far too many of your catchphrases over and over.
And Cena.
It's that weird. Yeah, it's a little sticky for my
But
taste.
it works, like the crowd is into it. So,
yes, and he knows it works. That's the other problem.
Yeah. So he reminds everyone that he used to live here when he was on the Indies, and he asked, so who's your daddy? And the fans are chanting MJF. And then he said, that Mark Tony Khan.
I believe it was who's your daddy.
Oh, who's your... Oh, right. Okay, I missed that.
Yes.
Bad, Paul. Fans chanted MJF. He said, that Mark Tony Khan told me I have to wrestle on September 20th. And then the fans booed, and he said, but then I realized that's Grand Slam, and we're going to be in the Devil's Den. And he starts spreading the news. The fans are kind of mixed to that. They like his singing, but they would rather see him wrestle tonight. He said, whoever wins is going to find out that no one is on the level of the devil. And he said, one person needs to be taught a lesson. And the fans start chanting Joe. And then he's interrupted by Joe's music, and Joe grabs the mic and he says, what's the problem, kid? And MJF's not happy with that. Fans are chanting, Joe is going to kill you. And then MJF said, Joe came out so fast because he confused the music with an ice cream truck. And Joe said, that's good. He said, last time I had anything to do with an ice cream truck, I was the biggest star on the other company's network. Okay, first of all, he wasn't. But what?
Well, he got co-billing with Will Arnett, so yeah.
But what's with the I don't get the ice cream truck reference, but
heavy metal, or Twisted Metal, the heavy metal is the movie that
so is that
the
movie?
video game where he's playing the He's the body for the psycho
Okay.
clown in that.
And is that on Peacock?
That is on the Peacock.
Oh, okay. So I just completely missed the reference. I thought he was talking about when he was in WWE. Okay.
I'm here for your cultural reference needs.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. That gets to that podcast where
it's not a very good show. But
everyone
yes,
wants
it's
to
there.
see. Everyone wants to see if you explaining things to me. And then he said,
"Let me explain the Rickroll to you."
I don't know, man.
Continue, please.
I was looking for the video, but
no, don't get on the Rickroll thing. Just keep going to the promo.
Looks like Garrett deleted it. Looks like Garrett deleted it.
Thank you.
All right. So, anyways, he says, "I ask you again, what's the problem, kid?" And then now MJF is seething, and he says, "You know what's funny about me, Joseph? I'm creative too. Who wants to hear MJF get creative?" And the fans cheered. And then he starts insulting him, and and the fans actually didn't like these insults. Called him the Pillsbury Joe Boy, called him Samoa Joe. Then he got them when he said, "Mechaleka high, your schmeckle's tiny." And the fans started chanting Tiny Dick at him. Yes. So this is Miz comedy now. And then Joe says, "Oh, it's funny you chant that because I heard the rabbi postponed your circumcision because he had nothing to work with." That was clever. That was a good line. And MJF was just kind of, And then he says, "I think hanging out at Indy has made you stupid." And then he calls him kid again. And then MJF is really pissed now. And he got in his face and he threatened to knock his teeth down his throat. And then he stops and he says, No, you want that. He says, "You can't skip the line, Joey." And the fans start chanting, "Fuck you, Joe." And he says, and then Joe says, "A lot of you are sounding like your mother right now." Like, and they groan at that. He says, "I would have
at least shut them down." I give him props for that. I'll go through my general thoughts after you're finished.
All right. So MJF says, "I would have bitten back at this when I was a kid, but to quote my partner, who's ready for story time with MJF, baby?" And basically he just recapped the whole story with William Regal. And then he brought up the NXT Brooklyn stuff, which I'm sure you all know. But long story short, he was hired as an extra and Joe bumped him. And then they basically recreated that scene on Sunday at All Out. So he reminds us of all that. And he says, he says, I know why you did that. He says, because you're a scumbag. And I know how scumbags think because I'm one. And the fans started, he's our scumbag. And he says, you did it because I was a kid and you knew you could get away with it. Well, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm full grown. I'm a generational talent. I'm the AEW World Champion. And I'm the man who headlined the most historical pay-per-view of all time. I'm MJF. And then Joe's just kind of looking at him. And crowd's chanting for him still. And he says, "So Joe, stay out of my way or I'm going to kill you." And he smirks. And then and he says, "You want to know why? Because my name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman and I'm better than you." And he holds up the thing and the crowd finishes his catchphrase. Joe says, "That was a point beautifully made, but I don't think of you as a kid. I never did." He says, "You know what I thought about you?" I thought he was going to say, "I never thought about you at all." But he says, "I thought you were a little bitch." And then MJF adjusts his ring. Fans are chanting, "Fuck you, Joe." MJF slapped him. Joe smiled at him and he says, "You're trying to provoke me?" He says, "I'll do this. I'll go through that little tournament. I'll beat everyone in it. And then I'm coming for you. Have a nice day." And then MJF just kind of looks at him and he starts leaving the ring. And then as he turns his back, Joe attacked him. And then the ref got in the middle of him and then MJF low blowed him and stomped a mud hole in him. Neck's all taped up. Then Joe comes back, gives him a Uranagi and a muscle buster. Cole came out to make the save. Joe bailed. Joe's taunting him up all the way up the aisle. He's saying, "Kid, you don't look so good." MJF is crying at this point. My left arm hurts. Shit, I can't feel anything. And he gets a bunch of doctors to help him back. Cole is watching all concerned. And I like the ending a lot. MJF's acting leaves a little to be desired. The promo itself was very good in some points and not so good in other points. Jeff.
I liked the end as well. I liked the beginning up until the point. I think that it was a tonal mistake by Samoa Joe. Joe's out here playing cocky Joe, and I didn't want that. I think when he came out, I was like, I hope Joe just stands on the ramp and just listens to MJF dig a grave for himself. When he got into the ring and he says, "I came in because you had something to say," So I thought he was going to say, so I'll be over here in the corner listening, go ahead. And I thought that's what he was going to do too. I was like, that's going to be so cool. Cause all he needs to do is be the threat there right now until MJF gets his cocky heel playing babyface promo out. And then Joe could just come in there and just be the threat and scare the crap out of MJF. Instead, I kind of got wisecracking Joe. And while I like wisecracking Joe and I like cocky Joe, I wanted angry Joe here. And
do you think this would have worked better if the roles were reversed?
No.
Okay.
I Samoa Joe's great as a heel. I have
no, just meant for what they were doing, not necessarily like, like it would work better that if MJF was the heel and actually afraid of him, as opposed to, because the reason he wasn't acting afraid of him is because he's a babyface and he doesn't want to show weakness.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's a point well made, but I was looking at this almost as, goofy heel versus badass heel type of a thing.
Right. And that's the thing. And MJF kind of is a goofy heel, but
yes,
he's a goofy heel that we're cheering right now.
Yeah. And again, my big complaint about MJF is I think he should be more flair. He should be confident in himself, but he shouldn't be as pandering and goofy as he is at times.
There was a split second when they were walking to the back and the camera was shooting from the front and you saw the doctors helping MJF and he's holding his neck and Cole's walking behind them. There was a split second where I was hoping that Adam Cole was going to jump him from behind. And I think that's coming at some point.
No,
maybe after the Joe match.
I do welcome Joe as a promo. Joe as a promo always has the threat of, but like I was watching, the clip I was watching. Oh, it was during the when Seth Rollins had Buddy Murphy as his disciple.
Yeah.
And he starts going into Tom. I think it was either Tom or Michael Cole. I can't remember which one. The play-by-play guy. And Joe's doing color. And Joe just kind of stares them both down very quietly and says, "Seth, you don't want to do this right now." Yeah. Right. That's the Joe I wanted.
Yeah.
Right there, because MJF reacting to that and kind of almost being flustered.
I think they were trying too hard to get people to boo Joe.
Yeah.
It worked, but it made for a less compelling.
And the thing was, it almost looked like it shook. I mean, they wanted Joe to be a little bit shook by Max's insults, even though he was.
And he totally no-sold everything.
Well, no, he was no-selling, but it was like he was bothered by them. So he was responding to the crowd. And I think he should have even worse no-sold them.
I think they were I don't think the crowd liked the fat jokes. Because we live in
sensitive times, Paul, and I think I agree with you there.
Yeah, because like I think they actually, like, even though they're booing him, they kind of like him.
You're gonna fat shame a guy?
Yeah, which yeah. But I mean, I think the match can be great.
Quote Samuel L. Jackson, brother Samoan.
Yeah,
can't got a bit of a weight problem.
I think there are two obvious winners of this tournament. It's either going to be Roderick Strong or Samoa Joe,
right?
And I think if it could be Roderick Strong and Joe could get screwed, and then he end up getting the title match in Seattle, which is possible. Or I think we're going to get Joe and MJF either on the 22nd or the 20th, I should say, or on October 1st, which is like 2 weeks later. So
I think Joe is the more compelling match, but I can also see it being like that match where you remember WCW in 92 or 91, they were building up to the Rick Rude versus Vader feud.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. And
it
never happened.
You're a real role model. Take off your.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like a heel thing, but I could see MJF like cheating to win against Joe in like a banana peel type thing and escaping out of there, just raging, and then it's like, and then Roddy eventually gets a turn, because that one's going to be more comedy than anything.
Yeah, and or it could end up with like maybe Adam Cole like throwing in the towel for Roddy Strong or something.
Yes, yeah,
because of his neck.
Yeah, because the Roddy MJF match is more story match.
I want to see MJF next week in a neck brace. Because,
talking to Roddy in a neck brace. That's
well, no, not necessarily. But then the thing is you've got Samoa Joe now who put them both in a neck brace.
Yes.
Which is interesting. Speaking of Roddy,
Adam!
The end of this thing, as they're making their way up the ramp, we got the Adam.
That should be his entrance music.
Yes, absolutely. Kind of is.
I think that's what it was, actually.
Yeah. And then Adam's looking around or whatever. And then so he comes out with the Kingdom. He's got his neck brace on and he's really jealous. He's arguing with Adam Cole because he cares more about MJF than about him. And then they start making their way to the ring. And then at this point, I noticed like Joe and MJF, they left all their belts in the ring. So they don't even really care. And the Kingdom have neck strong shirts on, which is a nice touch. They're just perfect lackeys. And then we got in a first round match for the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament, Roderick Strong and Trent Beretta.
This is an opener from PWG in 2014, I think. Yeah,
maybe 2004.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I don't know what either one of these guys did. Well, I shouldn't say that. Roderick Strong beat Chris Jericho, but Trent, he's like loses every week. But anyways, they had a match. Nobody cared at first. It kind of got a little good. They basically working over the neck. They told the story that both these guys have had neck issues, but obviously Roderick Strong's are more recent. I mean, he came down to the ring in a neck brace. But it got really good towards the end. Strong was doing all his signature moves. He reversed the gut buster, hit a sick kick for 2. Trent gave him a top rope Rana. Roddy rolled through that. Beretta got a reversal for 2. Then he hit a half suplex. Roddy's selling his neck. Trent hit him with a pile driver, but Roddy got a foot on the ropes, and Roddy got up, hit a jumping knee, and then he hit the end of Heartache, which is kind of like he throws a guy up in the air and does a backbreaker, and got the win. Pretty much clean win. Like I wouldn't say pretty much. It was a totally clean win. And the guy with the broken neck beat Trent Beretta, and he advanced in the tournament.
Do you remember when Trent was getting a push in New Japan? And he decided he was going to instead sign with AEW.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's had a good career in AEW,
it's fine. It's just, I look and every week I go, what is the point of the best friends other than to back up Orange and Chris for the most part? They come out, look, Chuck's been on the retirement tour since 2017. I don't fault him for doing nothing and getting paid.
And Trent's just literally
Trent is a good wrestler.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's pretty much Roddy too.
The best friends are but Roddy has some personality to him at least. Trent doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
Trent. I've bagged on Trent's promos before, and he's cut one good one in 4 years. But it's
Trent's got a great look.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's a good wrestler.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
this is where my concerns of AEW and Mo coincide here. I, as usual, have no interest in good wrestling week to week. I want build of angles and stuff until we get to the pay-per-view, and then I want the good matches. Thank you very much. I understand that it's a new super indie, times have changed, old man. Get off your porch and crap like that. I get that. Trust me. I understand. And, I want some heated angles and things like that. Best friends are never going to be in a heated angle, no matter how. I mean, they did parking lot brawls, and it's like, they're just back here doing their goofy thing again. Okay, great. I mean, I like Trent. I think Trent needs to get away from Chuck. I gotta be honest with you. I think if you're gonna do something with Trent, you gotta get him away from the best friends. Work for Yuta.
I don't think that's a priority at this point.
I don't either, and I don't know if Trent's actually pushing for it. So if he's just gonna be taller Tony Nese, so be it.
I did ask on Twitter how Trent Beretta got in the Grand Slam tournament, and my good friend and podcast partner Ryan Frederick said he has the magic number of career AEW wins, which granted him automatic entry.
He won a tournament in South America that was not broadcast.
It was a qualifier. It was a
Oh,
qualifying.
yes.
Yeah. He won a qualifying match over the aforementioned Tony Nese.
He brought snacks. That's what it is. He brought Sue baked some cookies. And Trent went into the batter and laced them with pot. Made everybody happy. And then at the moment, they're all high as a kite. Trent goes, "Can I be in that tournament?" And Tony goes, "Yes."
We got brackets a little later on. Actually, when are the brackets? I wrote them down at some point, but I
Would you like
don't see them.
bracketology? Because I think I can do
No,
them off the top of my head.
I got them here. I got them somewhere, but I must have skipped them when we were doing our recap. But
who do you have in the play-in game on Tuesday?
These brackets were more random than the blind eliminator tournament. We had this. Oh yeah, here we go. It's actually on my very next thing.
Yes.
Kingdom rushes to put the neck break on after the match, which is great. And then they put up a.
You know what's great about that bit though is Roddy's in pain. Neck brace comes on. All better.
Yeah, maybe that's all MJF needed.
I love that.
Yeah. So they put up the what do they call it? The brackets.
Yeah.
And it's a Wayne and Darby, Nick Wayne and Darby Allin on one side. So they're on the same side as Roddy and Trent. So the winner is going to face Roddy. The other side of the bracket is Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy.
Yes, on the bottom, and then on the top is Penta
and Jay Lethal. And both those matches are going to happen on Rampage. And then the winners are all going to wrestle on Collision. And then we're going to get the finals on Dynamite next week. So this is a real quick tournament. And like I said, like I don't know how any of these 8 guys got in the tournament. I mean, it's really Joe and Strong are kind of the guys that it's built around, I guess. And the rest are just names they pulled out of a hat, except for Darby. And why couldn't they have at least saved that Darby Nick Wayne match for next week and maybe did like matches where you were looking at the
Darby
brackets?
Shouldn't have faced Nick Wayne for 2 years.
Well, that too, but if you would have had, like, let's say it's Nick Wayne against Jay Lethal and it's Darby Allin against, somebody, Penta. And then you say, okay, if Darby beats Penta and if Nick Wayne beats, then we're going to see Darby and Nick Wayne against each other. You know what I mean? Like, that is something you should build to as opposed to just announcing it. But
I think look, Penta or Jay Lethal versus Joe, I'm here for.
Yeah, I think it's
either of those matches are going to be good. No, I think it's going to be Penta.
Really? Because I think Tony.
I don't think they want heel. I don't think you want heel versus heel on that.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Well, I do occasionally.
I know you do, but I think.
Penta Joe would be a mean guy match. Lethal Joe would be an ROH classic type of match, which is great.
What I think.
And then we get Joe cutting dead little boy promo on Darby.
And we'll get Jay Lethal backstage, and he'll tell Jeff Jarrett, "This is serious. You guys stay back here. This is me and Joe have history."
Yes,
yeah, that's what we're gonna get. I'm telling you, that's what it's gonna be.
Although Jeff Jarrett should be in this tournament because he should be in every tournament.
Yes, yeah. He could have taken Jeff Hardy's. I guess when they pulled the ticket out of the blind eliminator,
it said Jeff, and they assumed Hardy, but it should have been Jarrett.
It should have been Jarrett. That would have been made for a much better tournament.
Yes.
We got Remarkable Renee with Tony. Renee asked her about the spray paint and the miscommunication, and she doesn't recall.
Yes,
I've had so many performances lately. I don't recall anything with spray paint.
I'm doing so many performances lately. I was waiting for her to play the straight woman and go, what else have you done since last week?
And then she says, don't look backward, look forward.
Yes.
And then Renee says, well, it's funny you mentioned that because next week there's a 4-way eliminator match. Just need more of those for a world title match at Grand Slam. And then then Tony says, next week, if you're nice, I'm going to give you a sneaky peek into my life. So chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe.
And watch for the shoe.
Yeah. She leaves, and there's a pause, and Renee's watching, and then the second she took her eye off, the shoe comes flying. Renee's like, "What's up?" How does she get away with saying tits every week?
Because it's slang, and it's
okay.
MJF is dropping 4 S-bombs in a row that aren't getting,
true.
And the crowd's yelling "F off Joe" and stuff like that.
I think it's because she's doing it in a British accent.
Yes, and also, it's just slang. Your boy loves the unrepentant stupidity.
Yeah,
I adored this segment.
This is growing
so
on me
much.
I've been
the shoe throw is what got me there.
Yeah,
and
what got me is that she got me a tits out.
Tits out. Yeah. She's decided since she almost broke Renee the first time saying tits. She's gonna say tits every time.
Where she broke her here was before that. It was there was something else she said right before that
Yes.
broke Renee, and I don't remember what it was.
Yes.
It might have even been just the whole thing about I've had so many performances.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it was. It was like
Yeah.
the preposterous of that of that statement.
And she's like just completely Gloria Swanson at this point.
Oh yeah,
like it's not even.
Well, I mean, and she's doing the great stuff like physically as well. Like
Yeah.
like she's emoting very slowly.
Yeah.
Like that to do. She's doing a phenomenal job with just a ridiculous character.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and I imagine she's probably gonna. No, she's got to lose that, right?
I need her to become more disheveled though as the weeks go on.
Yeah, no, Baker's gonna win that thing, even though she's been losing all the matches.
The 4-way?
Yeah, I think so.
So you think it's
Well, I think Tony's got
Grand Slam. Do you think they're gonna take the title off of Saraya?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
That
I mean,
quickly?
I suppose they could do Tony, and then and that could be her.
I have a feeling that they want to get Saraya off the books. I don't have any proof of that.
It was when she poked her. Yes.
Yeah.
That's where she got her. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess Baker. It's going to be Baker or Tony. It won't be Sheeta, and it definitely won't be now.
No, Sheeta's going to turn heel after this 4-way.
Rose is there to take the pin. So next we get Hangman Adam Page out, and this was a weird segment, but kind of good, maybe. But it was weird. So I asked, why isn't he in the tournament? And that kind of played into what
did Ryan Frederick come back and say because he doesn't have the number of wins?
He doesn't have the right amount of wins. I should have asked Ryan on Twitter.
Well, he also hasn't done any singles matches.
Well, I honestly think feuding with Swerve is bigger than being in this tournament. But
I agree.
Yeah. But anyways, so he pointed out that he won the Over the Budget Battle Royal, and talked about how important the public authority system is to him, and that's why he donated the money to it. He said, I got a call on Saturday. I went on Google for 5 minutes and booked a flight. It's like, that's how Tony books his pay-per-views, I guess. He thanked AEW for the opportunity to give some kids some money. And he says, but I want to look forward. And before he gets a chance to say anything,
a lot of looking forward on this show all night, huh?
Yeah. So he says, so he's interrupted by Swerve. And I wrote down, he beat Nick Wayne. Why isn't he in the tournament? But he's not. Nana asked the fan to show him some respect. He said, so I've been in a coffin for 2 weeks, and it gave me some perspective. He said, the first person I thought of when I got out was you, Hangman. And he says, you're out here, you're doing charity. And he says, you're on the pre-show. Are you a mascot? And the fans are doing the treatment. And he says, why do you donate money to those kids? They're just going to grow up to be juvenile delinquents. And he says, you're doing pre-show on the pre-show, a charity on the pre-show instead of competing on the main card for world titles. I'm ashamed of you. When this company started, you were the cornerstone. You were handpicked to be the franchise player. And look what you've done. Former tag champ, former world champion. They did 80,000 at Wembley, and they did it all on your back. And now you're on pre-shows. That was like 10 days ago. But anyways, you lost your spot, and you don't even want it. He says, you haven't got new wrestling gear in almost a year. You got no new merch. You just signed a new contract extension, and you're soft, and it shows. And he points to his gut. And he says, you've had no singles matches on Dynamite, no promos, no title matches anymore. You took a backseat to the Elite. Stop him when he's telling lies. He is basically telling everything that everyone's been saying about Hangman for the last year, really.
Yes.
And he says, you've gotten comfortable. He says, opportunity after opportunity on a silver platter. He says, if I got your opportunities, I have been the first black AEW world champ. Fans cheered that. And he says, so I'm going to give you 2 options. Option A, ride off in the sunset like in those cowboy movies you love. Let your contract fizzle out next to your career. And let me take that slot that you don't want. And I'll turn this into whose house? Swerve's house. Option B, cowboy up and find that cowboy spirit and show these people what cowboy shit is all about. Or we can do this and you could fight me for the spot. But keep in mind, I have zero empathy for human life. I have no regard for anyone. I'll walk you like a dog. Either way, I'm coming for that spot that you act like you don't even want. And he says, and then Hangman responds. He said, if you want a match with me, just go to the back and get it. But I'm done with this shit. And then he leaves, and Swerve says, there he goes. And he says, it's a shame your wife and kids got to watch their father walk away from his moral responsibilities. And Hangman doesn't like that. So he turns around, gets back in the ring, but he gets attacked by Brian Cage. And Taz points out that he knows their history. And I'm like, I don't. Why don't you tell us? I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, but apparently they have history. And it was. I mean, Swerve was great here, I thought, but yeah, what'd you think, Jeff?
I actually had to pause the show.
Okay.
After this promo, and I'm sitting there, and this is where actor boy / writer boy starts analyzing, and I was going, what was wrong with that promo? Because they were in the right neighborhood. They're in the exact neighborhood they needed to be, and they didn't get there. And I was wondering why. And I think I figured it out. I think the problem with this promo was that almost that Swerve was too nice to him in terms of, I'm going to give you these options. I think Swerve, what I say in my breakdown is, and it's funny, my improv guru is coming up with a program for promo classes for wrestling, and I gave him some tips and exercises that I've used and to use around here in Southern California, small indies, because he's had some people come up to him and ask about it. And he's like 2 years later, he's like, this pro wrestling is a lot like improv. I go, oh, really? No kidding. It's been my brand for 10 years. What do you want? Swerve should just come out and goes, I hate you, Adam Page or Hangman. Here's why. You haven't wrestled on here for a long time. You just got a new contract. You're soft. I've been out here busting my ass to get up here.
And worst off, you don't even care.
And worst off, you don't even care.
Yeah.
And it should have just been that. And just, that's why I hate you. That's why I want you out of AEW. That's why I'm going to run you out of AEW so you can be with your wife and kid and let your contract fizzle out. It needed... Again, it was a little bit like the promo, the Starks promo in a way. It was a theoretical promo. It was a passive aggressive threat when it needed to be an aggressive threat. To me, it needed the aggression from Swerve, because Swerve's character. The problem with that is the menacing cockiness dwells on the cockiness instead of the menacing far too often.
I did like the the
oh no, that was great. No, and the staging of that was great, where he's kind of whispering in his ear but still on the microphone. That was great. But he really needed to come out here and goes, I hate you.
And he nailed the landing, but the flight was a little off.
And do all those reasons and stuff. The reasons were out of order.
You know what I was happy they didn't do. I'm happy he didn't say, like last year you were in a blood feud with a guy that I'm not allowed to mention, and I think that they got rid of the wrong guy.
Well, and also, that I'm glad he didn't do that. I'm glad he didn't say, well, you're friends with the boss, so that's why you got the new contract. I'm glad they didn't do that. You know what? He could just come out and start it. I hate you because you're soft.
Yeah.
You've been gone on paternity leave. You blew your world title run. He didn't say that. He just kind of said you were a world champion. It was a little bit almost too respectful in that manner too. It's like, oh, look at you. You won tag team titles. You won the world heavyweight title. Instead you should just, you blew your world title thing.
You came in here. You were the young, hungry guy.
Yeah, you were going to be the guy.
You worked you got the world title. You got this, and now you're soft. And now I'm the young, hungry guy.
Now you're soft. Now you're weak.
Yeah.
Make Hangman the old gunfighter.
Yeah.
Make him that.
Yeah.
You've lost your quick draw there, Sheriff.
But I will say I'm glad these two are doing a program. I assume we're
almost there. Swerve is so almost there. It's just one of those things where I kind of want to go, all right, he has clever ideas. He just needs to get them all in order and kind of run through this, because he has. I liked this promo. I didn't love this promo, and I would have loved
tonight. Was the first time, and I've heard people talk about Swerve as a future world champion, and I've always thought he had the talent. He's got the promo ability. He's got the in-ring ability, everything. He's got the great look. But I just felt like they have a lot of guys that seem like they're a higher priority than him, and I'm not sure that he'll ever get there. Tonight was the first time I thought he might get there.
I want to take Matthew's note here. I agree it was too talky. It seemed like Swerve was nervous and trying to remember all his lines. Better to go with unscripted feeling than a practice speech. Okay. Yeah, no, that's kind of, I've gotten that point hear a few times where it's like, yeah, the problem is they're trying to remember their lines and then they're trying to match the emotion to it, and it's not clicking sometimes. Whereas if you have the emotion first, it will then feed your lines and you'll get to the same general points, even if you don't make them all specifically. So that's what I would have done. And that's where I think that's where my problem with the disconnect with the cockiness in the menacing thing was. I wanted him to be angry. I've been in a coffin for 2 weeks. I hate you.
I will say too that I thought Hangman's reactions were great. They were believable.
Yeah.
And you know,
it's the best he's looked in a while, to be honest with you, because he's just, to me, I think he's been coasting quite a bit because he's been like the third wheel on a six.
Yeah, he hasn't really. They haven't given him anything.
Yeah, and I don't like the emo cowboy stuff. I think it's far too passive at times, and you're just like, okay, whatever. It's almost Orange Cassidy-esque, like when he's drinking the beer outside of the ambulance and stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We got our rundown. Rampage, we're going to get the Bucks against 2.0. It's kind of a random match, but I guess it's to get the Bucks back on the tag team towards the titles again. Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy in a tourney match. Penta and Jay Lethal in a tourney match. And we got video package for that match. And then we got promos from Jay and Penta, just standard promos. And we got a Jeff Hardy promo as well. We didn't need a Joe promo since we got one earlier. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a hell of a card on Rampage. I don't know who's going to watch it. Collision, we've got Roderick Strong against the Darby Nick Wayne winner, and we'll have the other semifinal match, which is the two winners from Friday. We will hear from Bryan Danielson. Bullet Club Gold will be in action. We'll hear from Saray and Ruby Soho, and we will hear from the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. So a lot of we will hear from. That is literally what it says on the graphics. And then Dynamite, we'll have the tourney finals for the Dynamite Eliminator tournament. We will have a 4-way elimination match. Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, and Toni Storm for a title shot. Brian Cage and Hangman Page 3. So I guess the history is they had 2 previous matches that I don't remember.
I remember one. That was a hell of a match that they had. Okay. It was a banger, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, that they have a great dynamic, like those two. Big man, kind of littler man, and it's great. Don Callis will reveal his next masterpiece, so I'm here for that.
Oh, Mel Coleman's at work.
Yeah. And then we'll get a random Jon Moxley title defense announced on Twitter next Tuesday. They didn't say that, but I'm just assuming. And then we get Darby Allin and Nick Wayne. So they do their entrances and they shake hands, and Darby immediately, Nick Wayne went to the outside, and then Darby did a high-speed dive, like running 100 miles an hour, and landed right into the barricades, and they went to commercial. So we come back, and then they wrestled for a little while, and they were in the ring, and Wayne kicked his head off for a near fall, and then out comes Christian Cage, and then they go to another commercial. And I'm looking at the clock because I was fast forwarding, and then like I can't, and there's like 5 minutes left in the show, and they're going to commercial, and so they come back from commercial with like 2 minutes left, and then they're just working at high speed, and Nick Wayne gave Darby a run off the apron. Christian's on commentary by this point. Strong and Kingdom are watching backstage. There's a million things going on, and we got 2 minutes left in this show. Nick Wayne did a top rope splash on the Darby, gave him a top rope cutter for 2. And then X pointed out that Darby knows his offense is prepared for it. So he went for another cutter. Darby blocked it. And then he was going to do a coffin drop, but he wouldn't do it because he didn't want to hurt Nick Wayne. They just rolled him up for 2. Christian said stupid decisions like that cost him his TNT title. Nick Wayne did the Last Supper, but he only got 2. That's Darby's move. Darby blocked Wayne's World. Darby hit a crossbody for 2. They traded reversals. Then Darby hit a code red, and Wayne kicked out. And then Darby started stomping his head, and he pulled his arm back. And I guess Wayne must have verbally tapped because he didn't tap, and the ref didn't like stop it. So it was kind of a weird finish. But
the ref thought he was out. I think that's.
Is that what it was? Okay, yeah, because it was like it looked painful. Like he had his neck, he had his knee in his neck, and he's pulling his arms back. Like he didn't want to do that coffin drop, but this was fine. And yeah, it was it was a fine match, but it was very rushed and very ill-timed to have 2 commercial breaks, in the last 10 minutes of the show. I thought it was produced wrong.
or incorrectly. I think they need to do a bit of a angle on this because they did far too much of the respectful strong style match. And I think they should have just had Nick Wayne come in here and try and fight Darby and try and win this harsh, because they alluded to it a little bit when Darby put the two hands behind his back expecting a punch and Nick Wayne super kicked him.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and he needed to follow up like stomping, punching, kicking. Darby needed to be fighting for his life, I think.
He screamed at him. He says, "Stop hitting me like an 18-year-old kid and hit me like a man."
Yeah, okay.
He said that.
Yeah, I know, but
okay.
they needed to do that.
Mhm.
They needed to shift gears here and do that instead of a super indie style high flying match. They needed Nick to be a little bit upset about the AR Fox thing and coming into this too. I mean, it's just this is the opportunity. If they're turning Nick Wayne heel, which I think they are, eventually,
I hope not, but I think you're right.
But I mean, even if it's in baby steps here, you need that next baby step here, and I didn't get that. What you got was a nice high flyer match type of a thing, and it was a good match. But I wanted Darby to almost be taken aback by how aggressive Nick Wayne was being in this match towards him in trying to win and going, okay, I need to regroup here.
And maybe you even put, maybe you can even have the announcers say, maybe Christian is getting to him.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's been talking to him.
You don't even need to hint that as well, but maybe Darby underestimated Nick Wayne.
Yeah.
And
but
actually,
I think it's the announcer's job to put that in your head.
Yes. Get the 2.8 count on him at some point and go, oh my God, he almost beat Darby to go to the next round.
Maybe he even does it unprettier.
Yeah, you could do. I mean, look, if you're gonna telegraph it, yes.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing with the subtle build to the heel thing,
right? Yeah.
You just make Nick Wayne amp up his aggression here. And really, maybe he's still sore at Darby for forgiving AR Fox. You can put that over on commentary too.
I want some follow up to this too. Like I want Darby to go and tell him, "Hey, great match, kid," and he's like, "Don't patronize me," like something like that. Like, but I don't know if we're gonna get that.
But that has to be followed. That has to be after the super aggressive match as opposed to this one, which was just kind of a back and forth thing. And then it's like. And I don't think Nick Wayne yet has the performance chops for that quite yet in terms of the go between and about.
They're clearly doing something here, so I don't know what.
Has he ever been a heel anywhere?
I don't think so. I don't, but I can't say for sure.
It might be.
Well, you know what? Him and Jordan Oliver
were
kind of heels in GCW, like the pretty boy kind of heels, but it just kind of depended who they were facing.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't really change their character, but
I wanted the tonal shift in this match. I didn't get it.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for Dynamite. And we just got a few more minutes here. Matthew asked an interesting question. He says, "What'll Omega's program be for New York and then for Seattle? Does the losing streak continue for Omega?" Okay. Yeah. Don't know what else Don Callis could do to him. I think maybe, they could do a rematch with Takeshita. Or whoever Don Callis' new family member is going to be, maybe. I don't know.
Golden Lovers versus Takeshita and whoever the for New York, and then Seattle. I think Seattle's going to be one of these things where it's going to be somebody he's not even doing a program with, just
like New Japan. Random New Japan guy.
Yeah, like a Sonata or something like that.
He's got to end. Well, no, there's only a few Japanese guys available, and Sonata is definitely not one of them.
Oh, that's right. They're doing a show that same night, aren't they?
Yeah. So we've got, I think, Osprey's available. All of TMDK, Bishamon. Not sure who else.
Boy, that's what I want on that Seattle pay-per-view is Shane Haste versus Kenny Omega.
Well, no, obviously not that.
No. Jeff Cobb is a good call.
Jeff Cobb. Yeah, they've had a few matches already, right?
Yes.
I think it's
something that will probably be good, but will be unspectacular.
They could do Takeshita
in terms of sounding like a match, in terms of like a dream match.
That's a month later. They could do a Takeshita rematch, I suppose. I don't want to see.
I think Takeshita rematches are for AEW only pay-per-views.
Okay, well that is an AEW only pay-per-view.
The Dream
thing?
It's
not a joint pay-per-view. They're just paying tribute to Inoki, but it's not a joint.
It's not a Japanese super show where they invite people over. Okay,
no. It's a total AEW production. So I really thought about it, but whoever it is, I want him to win. So although I mean, having this losing streak continue wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, but it's got to be like against the right guys, right? So
I just it's so weird because a Kenny losing streak gimmick interests me. Kenny vignettes don't necessarily interest me.
Yeah, like unless he's
after watching that Jim Ross interview in Jacksonville, I'm just nope.
Yeah. Maybe he needs like I don't want to. Yeah, and I mean he's got allies, like he's got the Bucks, but I mean that makes it worse when you add them, like in terms of vignettes, not matches, obviously. But.
Yeah, I'm guessing tag team match for New York. It's Seattle. That's going to be interesting.
I mean, you could do Hangman.
He's from Western Canada, isn't he?
Who, Omega? Well, Central.
Yeah.
He's from Winnipeg.
Okay, never mind. I thought it was from
They could do, you know what they could do is Omega and Hangman against Swerve and Brian Cage.
Yeah. Actually, that'd be a good New York match.
Yeah. There you go, Matt. There's our answer. And then maybe you do Omega and Brian Cage on Seattle, and that is just, it's like a rehab match for him, that gets him off his losing streak.
Omega and Swerve?
Omega and Swerve, yeah. Although I feels like we're getting Hangman and Swerve.
I feel like this is going to be a Defy heavy card in terms of that. Yeah. So Swerve's going to be on an upper level. That might be Swerve Hangman in Seattle.
Yeah, Swerve Hangman, and we'll probably get either we're going to get Darby and Nick Allen going for the tag team.
How about Ricky Starks and Omega in
Ooh,
Seattle?
I like that. I think we're going to get Darby and Nick Wayne against each other in Seattle, or they're going to be going for the tag team titles. We're going to get one of those two things.
I'll take those two against FTR. I'm here for that.
Yeah, in Seattle, which, that'll be great. And then Nick Wayne takes the pin, and then that furthers, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We're booking Seattle for Tony. I hope he's watching. All right. And
I don't need a build. Screw that. I already got it in my book.
Yeah. And I think that was everything. The other topic we kind of talked about all through the show, which was the fact that there's no brand split anymore. And it seems like there's 20 people working. So Starks Omega is a great pick if they're going to. Yeah. If Starks could beat Omega, and maybe Starks is Callis' new guy. That'd be interesting.
I would love both Big Bill and Starks to be with him.
Yeah.
That's a nice little stable there with Takeshita, Ospreay, Bill and Starks.
Yeah, little Aussie Open just to take pins every once in a while.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to talk about Do It, Jeff. Tell the good people where they can find you.
At Crap Game 13 on the old Twitter. Arcane references, bad jokes. You know the deal. I do a show over on the Voices Wrestling Podcasting Network called Shake Them Ropes. Chris Novembrino, absent last week, but this week we have a lot to go over, including Payback, including All Out, including the Punk firing since it came Saturday after taping. And Nova always has some interesting insights in the whole Punk ordeal. So let's look at that for your podcatcher on Saturday morning or so.
Critically acclaimed show that I've listened to once or twice and always enjoy when I do. And
Nova has interesting contrarian takes that I don't think of because he's no longer on Twitter. He doesn't read any of the sheets or anything like that. He watches wrestling. Okay. And I tell him the news and he reacts to it. And it's an interesting perspective.
I have a friend like that as well. And it is always interesting to talk to him. I remember we went to a wrestling show together and he was asking me questions that were obvious to anyone that's online, but he's not online. So he didn't know. And it was like, the one thing that got me was we were in Winnipeg and it was when Stu Grayson showed up to wrestle with the Dark Order, and then he got re-signed after the match, right?
Yeah.
But my friend had no idea that he wasn't even in AEW anymore because like guys just disappear for like 6 months at a time. You never see them. So he had no idea. And I was like, oh yeah, no, he got released. And he's like, really? He said, oh, I had no idea. And then he said, where's Colt Cabana? I was like, well, that's a whole other story. But yeah. So for me, I'm Paul Ace Fontaine on the Twitter X machine. And you can also listen to my other podcast I do with Ryan Frederick, which we talked about earlier in the show, In the Clinch. This week we previewed UFC 293, which is taking place on Saturday in Australia. And as well as, you know, all the other news of the week and everything. Ryan knows his stuff, and I play along. And so yeah, you can check that out. And yeah, that's about it for now. So for Jeff Hawkins, I'm Paul Fontaine, and this has been the Dynamite Show.
I feel much better about my depression. Thank you.
That's why I'm here.